In a forest where moonlight hums and cobras dance freely, a young fae named Viran discovered a tradition that broke his heart. This drawing is more than a portrait, it's a moment of transformation. As I sketch, you'll hear the tale of a glowing punji, 2 rescued serpents, and the fae who chose compassion over spectacle. Let the lines guide you into his world. Viran was born beneath the roots of an ancient banyan tree, where the air shimmered with magic and the soil remembered every footstep. From a young age, he was different. While other fae played tricks on travelers or danced in the moonlight, Viran lingered near the edge of the forest, watching the humans with wide, wondering eyes. He was fascinated by their rituals, the way they lit lamps at twilight, of the way they told stories with their hands and eyes, but most of all, he loved their music. It stirred something in him, something ancient and aching. He would mimic their melodies on hollow reeds, crafting tunes that made birds pause mid-flight. Viran's mentor, an elder fae named Talira, warned him often to forget about the humans, as they forget the cost of beauty, they forget the pain behind the performance, but Viran believed that there was goodness in them, if only they could remember. One day, while exploring the outskirts of a village, Viran heard a melody that stopped him cold. It was a punji, reedy, hypnotic, winding through the air like a serpent. He followed the sound and found a crowd gathered around a snake charmer. 2 young cobras swayed before him, their movements stiff, their eyes dull. Viran was horrified. He could feel their suffering like a pulse in the ground. He learned that they had been defanged, starved and trained through fear. The music, once enchanting, now felt like a chain. He returned to the forest, shaken. For days he didn't speak. He wandered the groves, questioning everything he'd admired. Was beauty worth pain? Was tradition worth cruelty? In his grief, he sought out Nagini, the serpent goddess who slept beneath a sacred lake. She rose from the water, her eyes ancient and kind. Viran told her what he'd seen, and she listened in silence. You feel deeply, she said. That is your power. But feeling is not enough. Will you act? Viran nodded, though his voice trembled. With Nagini's blessing, Viran crafted a new punji. It was carved from sandalwood, offered by the forest itself. When he played, the music shimmered, not to command, but to connect. Still he hesitated. What if the villagers rejected him? What if they mocked his magic? What if they heard the cobras again? It was the cobras who gave him courage. He had rescued them, nursed them back to health, and they had chosen to stay by his side. They curled around his arms, their eyes bright and trusting. They had suffered, yet they still chose to dance. Viran returned to the village. The crowd gathered, curious about the fae with glowing wings and the radiant punji. He played. The music shimmered like sunlight on water. It stirred something ancient in the villagers, not awe, but empathy. The cobras danced freely, their movements wild and sacred. No longer performance, they were partners in a ritual of healing. The villagers were moved. Some wept, others laid down their own punjis. The tradition began to shift, not through force, but through feeling. Viran grew. He learned that change is slow, that not everyone will listen, but that even one heart opened by music is a victory. He continued to play, not for fame, but for connection. His glowing punji sang of sorrow, of hope, and the courage it takes to protect what is vulnerable. And in the forest, where the trees still whispered his name, the cobras thrived, free, fierce, and forever dancing to the song of the glowing punji. May this glowing punji remind us that beauty should never come at the cost of suffering. Thank you for joining me in this moment of art and story. Until next time, may your creations always carry compassion.